Hello, everyone. How are you doing? Welcome to another segment of me sharing with you my magical friends. I personally don't call them experts. I think they are way beyond that. They're pure magic, and they are here to help you get through this season because I know this season is very stressful, and some of us don't have the tools or don't know the people, don't have the resources of how we can calm the fuck down. And that is my whole thing. Let's all calm the fuck down because it affects our health. It affects the people around us. So me and my friends have decided to come over to your screens and inject you some positivity, some hope, some tactics, some tools, and and get you away from all the negativity you've been seeing. So my name is Rosa Alejandra. I am the mirror expert, and my mission is super simple. I want to eradicate competition amongst women, and for that, first we women have to heal. And then after that, we have to have the courage to woman up so that we can help the next woman up. And I am here bringing you my good friend, Lindsay. And she is amazing. Lindsay, we met but once, right? And we connected so good. And, to be honest, it has to do with you being available to connect as well. I had the opportunity to do a talk in a nearby town, and we had mingled and talked before that, and then she had mentioned that she did tapping, and I'm thinking like, hey, with my dance background, I'm gonna start tapping here. No, that's not what I'm talking about. And so anyway, she kind of explained what it was, and I was like, okay. Now, I'm not gonna lie to you, Lindsay. I've tried tapping before by getting these little Gaia courses and here and there, and I've never experienced what I experienced with you that day. So let me tell you, people, what this woman did for me, it kept me emotional for almost 2 weeks because no one, and when I tell you no one, I'm not exaggerating, no one has ever fixed my crown like she did. And she didn't have to because she didn't know me. And I don't know if you can feel what I'm feeling, but I'm feeling it again. I was getting ready to get on stage. I ran to the restroom and suddenly I started having my asthma. I usually don't have like asthma attacks, but I don't know if it was a panic or a combination of asthma. I don't know what happened. According to my mind, I was fine. I wasn't feeling anything. I wasn't fearful, but I could not breathe. And it was my turn to get on stage. And then suddenly this woman right here comes up to me and she's like, where are you? I was looking for you. I just wanted to, to wish you well and so that you can get up there. And I told her, I can't breathe. I just can't. And she's like, okay, so what are you feeling? And then she started identifying what I felt, and I started identifying what I felt, and we started tapping, and it went away. Like suddenly, I
Yeah,
was like,
maybe 40 seconds.
right. In what? In about 40 seconds, right? Yeah, it wasn't
Maybe
even a
30.
minute. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was able to breathe, and I was like, oh. So at that moment, I was just happy to be able to breathe, get up on stage, did my thing, completely free of preconceptions, expectations, or fear, right? But then once I got home, I realized what you did, and I was like, fuck. Like, no one has ever had that impact on me in 40 seconds. So, Lindsay, thank you for being here. Thank you for taking the time to do this for everyone, even for me. And I want you to explain to them what it is that you do, why it's so damn magical, why it's so needed, and how it can help them today.
Okay. So you're welcome. And I think that I was just showing up for you the way that I could see that your heart shows up for other women. And because we're both kind of in the lines of self-love coaches or women empowerment, those things all sound really cute and cliche, but it's very different. Kind of like you and I were just talking about, knowing something and having the information is very, very different than actually applying it. And so I'm glad that you brought me here to show women what to do in the moment. And so to explain what this is first, if you want, you guys can just start tapping, because that's what I want you to take away from this is, so while I'm talking and sharing, you're actually getting these benefits, and you're going to just kind of follow along with me along these tapping points. These are the ends of different meridian endpoints. They all connect to different organs in your body, different functions. So what happened to you that day is that you were excited in your head, you had planned, you had prepared, you were going up to speak, you knew what you wanted to say, but some part of your subconscious was equating the situation with something old. Our subconscious does not know the difference between recalling a threat or being in the threat in the moment. It doesn't know the difference between recalling a negative or difficult memory versus actually living that negative or difficult memory. And so with this on a private scale, normally one-on-one with my clients, which is very much like what you and I did, even though we didn't have a full, even though we didn't have,
I lost your video. There you are.
sorry, there you are. So I got a phone call. Even though we didn't have a full private session, what we did was we did the work that EFT does, which is we recalled an old, uncomfortable feeling, even without you knowing where that original memory came from, which usually is about the age of 9 or younger.
Mm-hmm.
And so what happens is when these things, I always say it's like walking on to stage and having to speak or in front of a classroom. And that's kind of a situation you are in, is that you're going up on stage and your adult self is so strong, so empowered, so confident, but there might have been a little version of you when you were 8 or 10 that had to go up in front of the class and give a presentation. Even if it was only a 15-second presentation, to that small child, those 10 or 15 seconds were the first 10 or 15 seconds that you ever had to be in front of a group of people giving a presentation. And so you didn't have any experience. So you might have gotten afraid, you might have panicked, you might have felt uncomfortable. And our body really does react physically when we have an emotion, right? And so what probably happened that day is there was an old event, whether you're recalling it now or not, that you were a child. And so what happened that day, you're recalling it now, the first or worst time.
Like I'm just waiting for you to stop so that not to stop, but I mean to finish that I can share, because it's like, oh my God.
Perfect. Yeah. So what is that memory that comes up now?
Well, I was, actually, it wasn't as early as 9. It was more like 11. And that I had just come to the United States, and here, around like junior high, I was really fast actually in my schooling. So I went into junior high pretty early, and learning English and yet having to get up and speak and being made fun of. At the moment, I didn't take it I was being made fun of. I just thought about it as not being understood. And the funny thing is that when I understand that right now, it's still the same thing. And I have found myself speaking that way. I don't think I'm being understood. I don't think I'm giving the right message. Up to date, I still say those things. And you saying that, I'm like, oh my God, because I don't remember the point of making fun, because I was raised by family that makes fun of each other. So I'm used to that. But not being understood. Like I remember my word, and see, now all of a sudden I can't talk. Wow. What are you doing to me?
So what happens is those old feelings come up. And so this is perfect, because this is what you wanted, was something just really on the spot.
Right.
What's happening is while we're tapping, what we're doing is we're sending a calming response to your fight or flight saying, hey, when that happened, when I was 11, you identified that I wasn't safe in that moment. And so you took note of my surroundings. And that day, you started scanning my atmosphere for any situation that looks or seems or acts or appears or smells or feels similar. Mm-hmm. And if something does, you inject me with my fight or flight, telling me that as long as I run or hide, I won't feel those uncomfortable feelings again. So the problem is, as adults, we don't just run or hide from an office meeting or from being on stage, but our body is actually injecting us with that original recipe of fear and panic. Mm-hmm. So our adult brain is trying to comprehend something as an adult looking back on it. But what is happening inside of us is it's actually those events and those feelings that pulsed through that 11-year-old girl, which your subconscious is mimicking and then flooding your body with now, today. And so this is why we have such strong physical reactions to things that, one, if we do remember the event, we really don't think that it mattered that much.
Right.
Or two, if we don't remember the event, then how do we resolve it? Well, what we're doing is we're tapping, you start thinking about it, your subconscious, what you were doing, even though what we didn't even just do classic EFT, what we did was the technique that you asked me to teach your girls, which is how to just get immediate stress relief in the moment when there's an upset or a trigger, when things feel out of control. And so I had you just start tapping, because that's what we need to do. We need to just start tapping. Don't worry about what point you start on. Don't worry about how many times you tap each point. You have to just start tapping and breathing. And so what starts to happen, and what we started to do for you, was you started saying to your brain, hey, you know what? Even though I was really afraid that day, or maybe panicked or uncomfortable, right here, right now, I am telling you that I'm really safe to kind of sit in this feeling and to see it for what it is. And so what starts to happen is that fight or flight will calm down. And as it rests, there's a lot of things happening, but your cortisol levels are dropping. And in about 25 minutes, they can drop up to 80%. So what started to happen is that old memory came up for you, and then you lost your words again. And that's
I lost my
part of,
tongue. I just couldn't talk.
yeah. And that's part of the problem, is that you have something to say, but subconsciously it's not safe to. So as those old feelings started coming up, the same reaction physically happened, which
You're freezing.
is I
You're frozen.
words out of my, because I understand. Okay. So are you. Okay, there we go. So what I was saying was that those exact physical feelings come back even right here today in the moment. But what we're doing is we're kind of turning up the heat on it. We're saying, you know what? Let me just feel this. I'm going to feel this, because right here, right now, I'm a full-blown adult woman. I can look back on that original event with total compassion and acceptance for that little girl version of myself, because she had a point to make and she was proud to make it. And right here, right now, I am so safe to speak, to share, to connect. And even if I'm afraid of being misunderstood, I deeply and completely honor and accept myself right here, even with this challenge. And so we're really picking up that old original event out of like a trauma drama file once it's accessed, and we're dropping it into a safety file. And so what happened that day with you is that I came up to you when that 11-year-old girl was actually standing in front of
Yeah,
me.
because if you remember, I couldn't understand what was happening. Like, I'm fine. I don't feel anything. What's going on?
Right. And so it was the 11-year-old physical reactions that were happening. And so when we just dove right in and started tapping, what we were doing was we were accessing that peak uncomfortable emotion that is normally kind of the goal that I get into with private sessions, is because the work gets done when the emotion is spiked. Okay. And so that was a safe situation to do it, because you were already spiked. Now, people will say to me, you know, I don't know, there could be things in my childhood that could come up, and I don't want them to yet. That's fine. Nothing's going to come up until you're safe for them to. And so what we did is we grabbed you in that moment and immediately said, right here, right now, I'm safe. Right here, right now, I'm safe. And what you were doing was you were communicating with your subconscious that that thing that happened when I was 11 is not happening right now. This is new. This is different. I'm safe to breathe. I'm safe to speak. I'm safe to share. And I didn't even know that 11-year-old event. And so that's the beauty of
Me
this
neither
work.
until today.
Yeah. Yeah. And so things do safely start to reveal themselves and to show up. And what's special is then we get it's like we get puzzles to your life story that maybe were lost, and we get to start putting them together. But anyway, so this is what I would have your girls do, is when things feel stressful, when things feel out of control, is to just start tapping. If there's people around and you don't really want them to know what you're doing, I say you can always just press and hold a point, take a deep breath, and blow it out. Because what happens when we get stressed or triggered is your fight or flight is actually preparing to run from a lion, and it doesn't need you to really think very clearly or even digest your food. And so what happens is almost immediately when we start to feel that panic or the anxiety or that stress, even if we have good reason to, Okay. Our blood starts to leave our brain and our stomach so quickly that we actually think like a child. If we've just lost 70% of the blood in our brain because of stress, aren't we like a 3 or a 6 or a 9-year-old? And so that's one reason we get stressed and then we act irrationally. And so what I always say is the second you think you might be getting stressed, immediately start tapping or press and hold, because what you're doing is you're saying, hold on, I need the blood in my brain right here, right now. I'm safe. You don't even have to remember these words. The whole idea is you're pressing on these points and just automatically calming that
Awesome.
fight or flight. Yeah. And you're just bringing yourself back to present. And the day I met you, there was a man who spoke, whose name I always forget. I think it was Brian, on the misconceptions of mindfulness. And I love what he said, because he said one of the misconceptions is that we have to sit on a little cute mat and hold our hands a certain way and clear our brain for 2 hours. And then people go, well, I can't be mindful. My brain's too full. And the beauty of EFT is what it does is what we're really doing is we're practicing mindfulness in, oh, I am now mindful that even though I want to speak on stage and inspire other women, it doesn't feel totally safe yet. And as women, we want to go solve all the problems. What this does is we're just saying, I am mindful of this problem and I'm not going to try to solve it. I'm going to just hold it and look at it and breathe and tap and just be present with it. And that is when things shift and things move. They don't shift and move when we shove them down or ignore them or throw them aside. We
Well, no,
have
because
to
they
hold.
show up when you get on stage.
Yeah. So really held it that day for you. You were actually perfectly present with the problem.
Oh, yeah.
And it totally and completely resolved.
And that's the other thing, right? You have to be willing and ready to let it go, to release it. You just can't. You
right.
cannot be in denial.
Right. And I think the piece of that is we have to accept ourselves with the problem before the problem will shift. And it's really normal to say, well, no, like I don't accept myself with this problem. I could only accept myself without it. Well, that's the hardest part sometimes, is that you do have to accept yourself first.
Right.
But really all we're doing, even if it's a choice to accept yourself just for a minute, what we're doing is it's kind of like, I can't accept myself with this problem. I can't accept myself with this problem. Like, here's the problem, right? Like, no, the problem's too big. I can't. And what we have to do is just for a second, say, just for a second, I accept that this is a problem for me. And I accept myself even with this problem.
Right.
I'm just going to accept myself with this problem. And then I'm going to wait and see what happens. And so that moment, just that fraction, that moment of accepting self can be exactly what you need to just shut down that fight or flight that keeps telling you there's a problem, just long enough for because what happens is your subconscious is just saying, she's not safe, she's not safe. So when you accept yourself with the problem, it hears, I'm safe. And now it doesn't have to do its job.
Right.
And so it's really beautiful. But then when you start to accept yourself with the problem can change. And two, usually the part of the problem is because of something good inside of you. I was just sharing with you something that I'm going through, and it's like, yeah, this is a problem for me, but why is this a problem? Well, it's a problem because somebody I love is sick. Somebody I love is sick. Somebody I love needs care and attention, and that somebody isn't able to really make all of their own decisions right now, and I need to make a lot of decisions. And so even though this is hard, I know that even though I don't know the next step or the next decision, I actually accept myself with this problem, because the only reason I have this problem is because of love for somebody.
Right.
So the problem is because of what's right with me. It still is a conflict. It still is something I need to solve, but I am not the problem. And I know that. And so that's all we're doing with this. So
It becomes a problem when you're wanting to step out of your comfort zone as well, right? That's when you create a problem, because it's not aligned with your fear factor or your subconscious. Now you're going against it. So I think that's amazing. I have a quick question for you. Can you explain to us real quick, what is the point of this one right here? What is the actual physiology of what we're doing, just so we can understand more of it?
Sure. And I'm trusting you to watch the time for us. So you just tell me.
Just go ahead. Let's just do this and then we'll finish it. Sorry.
In a nutshell, each point houses and is connected to a handful of uncomfortable or negative emotions: fear, anxiety, grief, sadness. Okay. And each point is also connected to a handful of positive emotions. So much like positive thought and positive affirmations, most of us know now that if we're in an uncomfortable situation and we just start to throw positive affirmations on ourselves and try to repeat them, it doesn't always sink in. And that's because that fight or flight is already tripped, saying you're not safe. So it's not going to calm down and suddenly receive safety.
Right.
So what we're doing while we're tapping is, they decided there's different modalities of tapping. Some of them will say, if you're anxious, like this is a point for fear, which is why I always have people go to it first, because I believe fear is the greatest and biggest uncomfortable emotion. And so if most things lead back to what we're afraid of, this is a pretty safe point to just press and hold in a moment. So if someone's afraid of something, I could just have them tap here. But the truth is, whatever story they're telling or whatever they're afraid of, it also probably has grief, sadness, anxiety. And so by tapping this series of points, we're hitting all of those uncomfortable emotions. So no matter what the emotion we're feeling is, or what emotions are under it, we're actually doing the work of all the emotions, even if we're not focusing on that emotion. So just like a dirty cup of mud, once we rinse it out and fill it with water and shake it around and rinse it out, we have a clear cup, and now we can pour fresh water into it. And so what we're doing is, and I speak to a huge group of faith-based people. And so EFT can be a tricky concept, but it's a physiological response on the body, just like taking a Motrin when you have a headache. There's a physiological response. This is just a physiological response. It's just science in our body and how it works. And so what we're doing is we're essentially saying, let's get this junk out. We do have to focus on the negative. And so we do focus on the negative a lot, but then what happens is it gets up, it flushes out, and now there's room for you to stand strong. You took that big inhale that day. I saw you take it, because what happened was your space was filled with 11-year-old girl, and all of a sudden we cleared the space, and you went and you're like, oh my gosh, I can breathe. And so what happens is space was made. You had a space to be filled. And so then as we keep tapping, now there's room for all of the positive emotions to sink in. And so that's why we don't go in with this of like all of the positive right away. It's because it's kind of like having a bad day and someone telling you, oh, there's always tomorrow. You're like, yeah, I know. Today is so hard.
Right.
And so we're honoring the uncomfortable feelings, really allowing them to show themselves and everything they mean, to get them out, kind of like the get over it. We're kind of like letting them go, and we're getting over it. And then there's a new space to fill. And so that's what those points are. It's amazing. And so oftentimes in my sessions, somebody might say, this point is really tender while I'm tapping on it. And I will pull up the list of emotions, and of course, the emotions that they're really feeling right now are exactly the ones associated with that point. It's really special.
And for somebody who's emotionally challenged, like
Yeah.
they don't know how to connect with anything, they can still tap, and and things will start to
yeah, because what we're doing is we're focusing on where you're at right here, right now.
Okay.
And I have a girl who said, the problem is I don't know how to feel. I don't know what I'm feeling. And I said, that's okay, because that's where you're at. And so what we actually started was even though I don't know what I'm feeling, even though I don't know what this feeling is, and I don't know what to call it, I accept myself even with this problem.
Nice.
And so then it overrode, and all of a sudden she was like, wow, like, is this anxiety? Is this sadness? All of a sudden, all these feelings she heard other people talking about all the time were able to be felt. And so we really start with, oh, know what I'm feeling, and that's okay.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
Yeah. And your body will usually tell you. People feel tension in their neck.
Right.
And I had a gal who was not comfortable with talking about her emotions. And so I noticed her neck was always tight. So we just focused on her neck for a while. And then her headache. Oh, and she had a pressure headache. well, what in life are you experiencing a lot of pressure from right now? Oh my gosh, my husband and my kids and my work. And it's like, oh, okay. And tell me that. So, right. So whether we were working on the pressure headache or the pressure from family, her
Mhm.
headache dissolved.
That is
So
awesome.
we're using the body as a guide.
That is awesome. Like I told you all, my friends are magical, magical. And how blessed was I to be for you to be in that room that day, right?
It was a miracle of sorts. I actually was prompted by God to be there. And I was like, really, God? Like, this is weird. Like, I don't feel like this is where you wanted me today. And I know how to listen to him. And man, I showed up and it was just as much of a gift for me to meet you. So
Thank you.
thank you for what you're doing and for inspiring people and for welcoming me here to share this. In fact, let me tell you, anybody who sees this, just in case they see this before this Wednesday morning, I think I'm going to do like a quick free live tap. I don't always do this, but I feel really led to do this just to get more women connected and just immediately stress relief. Probably right about 10 o'clock on Wednesday morning, just for 45 minutes. And I think it'll be live.
That is the 8th or the 9th?
Um,
Today, wait, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, it's the 8th. So
okay, nobody knows
Wednesday
the
the
date.
8th, at what time?
I think 10 o'clock for 45 minutes.
Pacific time?
It's the first time I'll do a live for that long. I'm kind of trying something a little different
Hmm.
before I switch back over to paid groups
Right.
only. So it might be one of the last chances to get in for free. I just want women to just experience the power of this and get 45 minutes of breathing and tapping and stress relief.
Beautiful. We'll be there. So please tell us how we can find you.
You're just going to pop onto Instagram. I'm stuck with EFT, or Facebook, which is, who knows, probably also Unstuck with EFT. I can never remember what I label things. But I'm Lindsay Lewis, and Instagram's probably the best. So
Beautiful. And we'll go ahead and put it in the comments
yeah,
or on the title of this
yeah,
video. Well, thank
yeah,
you so much, Lindsay. Thank you so much, because I know this is also your energy being, gifted to us. So thank
yeah.
you. And I hope that if you are watching, I hope that you went along with us and you
Yep.
experienced some type of relief. Um,
And
Other than
and
that,
let me add, if somebody didn't experience relief and actually feels more stressed, it's because something important was released from the subconscious.
mhm.
So if you know what it is, sit with it and be mindful of it and tap and breathe and be very, very excited about how it processes through, or reach out to me personally.
There you
Yeah.
go. There you go. Other than that, again, my name is Rosa Alejandra. I'm the Mirror Expert. You can find me on Instagram or Facebook at the Mirror Expert. And that's pretty much it. I'll let you guys go. Have a beautiful, beautiful night. Thanks again, Lindsay, and we will see you all soon.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.